Ancient-Wraith-Human-Hybrids. Ancient-Wraith-Human-Hybrids. Stargate novels, I have a question for you.
Why are you the way that you are?
I'm one of the few, if only, Stargate lore channels that adds you into my videos, because I think you do have worth. I mean, you gave us Seldom Seen, the greatest Wraith ever. You should be part of the conversation when we talk about Stargate. But then you go do this. Okay, so what am I complaining about? Today is well, not another Stargate lore video, because I'm sure no one is going to want this to be canon. I'm going to be talking about a race that was introduced in the book Blood Tides, and as far as I can tell, in that book alone. So let's start at the beginning, or more fittingly, the end. Specifically, the end of the Lantean Wraith War. After the Ancients returned to the Milky Way, many decided to devote themselves to learning how to ascend. But some among their number felt they should help guide mankind and prepare for the possibility that the Ori would come after them. This does line up with what Morgan said in the episode The Pegasus Project. Among the number of Ancients who wanted to help humanity was Lilith. Yes, that Lilith. She was a scientist who started creating chimeras that would go on to inspire many mythological monsters. Eventually, she got the idea to mix ancient, wraith, and human DNA to create the Lilin. The specific wording seems to indicate that these were humans who were merged with wraith and ancient DNA. This was done to create a warrior race who would one day do battle with the Ori. In case you couldn't tell, Lilith started to just go a little bit crazy, with her original goal being merely to battle the Ori, turning into an obsession that made her just as bad as them. The Ancients felt she created abominations and told her to destroy her creations, to which she refused. So what did the Ancients do in response?
Nothing! Absolutely nothing!
Oh, but you see, they didn't need to. Climate change caused a flood that wiped out her laboratory located in the Valley of Eden. But the Lilin survived, and Lilith led them to safety and gave them technologies to survive. Lilith would be granted sanctuary from the king Gilgamesh before she disappeared, possibly being killed by Nirti. Yes, that Nirti. After Lilith was gone, the Lilin continued to live on Earth, at first struggling as they were hunted by humans who believed they were witches or other demonic creatures. Physically, they looked just like humans, though extremely pale, bordering on albinism. They had an average human lifespan, but they could extend it by feeding on humans through the feeding organ they had. They also possessed genetic memory as well as telepathic abilities, such as creating mind-link communication with their own kind or reading a human's mind or emotions. Something that is generally interesting about this race is while having females and males, which are called succubi and incubi, they can't breed together. So there's a fixed number of Lilin in the world. However, both sexes of the species can breed with humans. These children are called cambions, who are more human in appearance. While most serve the Lilin, there are cases of cambions not knowing about their heritage. But these cambions will still serve the Lilin by spreading their genes among humanity. Sometime after Lilith's death, the Lilin would become divided into two cults, the Lilith cult and the Nilin cult, both seeking the same thing. The ginkgo extract from the Pegasus galaxy that would allow the Lilin to trigger the Aratus bug gene in their human descendants, thus creating more Lilin, but their reasons for doing so differed. The Lilith faction are the bad guy version of them, believing that it is their destiny to have dominion over humanity. They feed on humans regularly and have a ritual in which they remove the organs from their victims. They want the extract so they can awaken all the humans which have the Aratus gene in them and turn them into Lilin. The remaining humans would be sacrificed to feed the new Lilin, and they would gain control of the world. They would then wage war on the Ori and their followers with these new numbers, as well as by bringing the Wraith to the Milky Way. The other faction, the Ninlil, are the good guy faction who want to help humanity, as well as all sentient life from the threat of the Ori. While they have to feed on humans, they only do so to those who are in pain and require a merciful death. Their goal is to breed a cambion who can feed on animals, something they would eventually do in at least one Cambion. They also wish to turn humans with the Aratus gene into Lilin, but in a slow and controlled way, along with the evolved version of the gene that would allow them to feed on animals. Both groups believe they are weapons meant to fight the Ori, but one of the Ninlil told Daniel that Lilith taught them that an ancient would descend from the heavens and take on a human form, leading them in battle. And this Ninlil believes Daniel to be that person. While not an ancient, Daniel did ascend and return. This book does take place near the end of the final season of SG-1 before the movies. And Daniel does play a big part in the war with the Ori and their destruction. So I guess Daniel is Jesus now. Anyway, the book ends where most of the Lilin were killed off. Turns out Lilith installed a failsafe. If the Lilin were exposed to a certain pattern of frequencies, it would cause fatal aneurysms. And fun fact, part of these frequencies can be found in that song Taylor sang. Not all the Lilin were killed. A small group of Ninlil survived, one of whom could feed on animals, and a massive group of Lilith cultists also survived. However, both may have been wiped out in a storm while heading to Antarctica, but it is unclear if they are still out there, waiting for their time to strike.
Well, that was a load of shit.
Okay, positives first. I do like the concept of this race/story on its own. Two factions of vampire-like immortals battling each other over the fate of humanity? That is cool. I like that. I also like how they tie into a lot of mythological elements when telling the story. For example, all the ties to the Lilith myth, or the Lilin calling the ancients the Anunnaki. It's something I think Stargate lacks sometimes, but that is a later video. So what's my problem? Well, I suppose it boils down to one thing. I think the mere existence of this race goes against a core aspect of Stargate. I've mentioned this before, but a core aspect of Stargate is the fact it is very close to our own world. Unlike Star Trek or Babylon 5, it doesn't take place in the future. It takes place now, in our own modern world. Yes, it is different from our real world with the whole ancient aliens thing, but after the Goa'uld left, this Earth was left isolated and became one very much like our own Earth. For example, they have the same kind of media we would consume.
Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings. You know when they light all those signal fires on the mountaintops?
Yes, there were cases like set in Merlin, but in general these were small, isolated cases. This Earth only started to differ when they started to use the Stargate. But what this book does is it introduced a race of vampires who've been fighting this shadow war for almost all of human history, influencing humanity or even helping to unearth the Stargate. So when you watch this scene, know in the background somewhere there are vampires who are helping to make this happen. The idea just feels so fanficky. And look, I like fanfiction. I think you can find some really good ones written by people who clearly have a talent for writing. And no, I am not saying the writers of this book are bad writers, but the idea just feels like something out of some of the worst fanfics I have come across. And here's the other thing, there was no reason to make this race. With Pleasure Cruise for the Grace Aliens or the comics for the Unknown Aliens, even if you don't like the explanations given, they were attempts to answer questions that we as fans, odds are, might never get. But here, was there any indication that an ancient created a race of Ancient-Wraith-Human-Hybrids? Was anyone asking for that? The whole idea just seems pointless, and again, I think changes a core aspect of what makes Stargate, Stargate. Though keep in mind this is just my opinion, you are free to disagree with me. Do you like this race and would like to see them brought into any future Stargate media? Or do you agree with me and you think this reinforces the belief that the books shouldn't be canon? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below, leave a like and subscribe, and remember,
it became a myth, much like your vampire.